In 1961, the American comic book industry wasn't doing so well. The industry was under strict censorship from Comics Code's authority. Comic book publishers had been going out of business over the last decade, and many artists had quit comic books and moved on to safer, better paying jobs. Jack Kirby could have moved on as well, but he chose not to. He was an artist who wanted to tell stories, so he stayed on despite the low pay and terrible job safety. Marvel was on the brink of shutting down. According to Kirby, they were literally carrying out furniture out the door. He got together with Stan Lee. Together, they decided to launch one more comic book, a new kind of comic book. Their best one that would tell real stories with real characters. Both had worked in comics for 20 years. Both had years worth of unfulfilled ideas. So many stories they never got to tell. The time was now. If Marvel was gonna end, it might as well go out with a bang. Kirby and Lee released Fantastic Four issue 1 in August of 1961. It was an instant hit. This single comic book saved Marvel and launched Marvel Comics as we know them today. Fantastic Four is one of the most influential comic books ever released, so I am kind of curious what the deal is. So I went back and read the first issue of Fantastic Four, and I read Justice League issue 7, which shares the cover date with Fantastic Four. And I want to compare the two to see practically what the difference is. Justice League was a big book for DC at the time, and a team book, so I figured it's a natural choice to represent the old ways. With our two comics figured out, let's see what exactly made Fantastic Four so revolutionary. Let's start by examining the introduction of both. Fantastic Four begins with our four heroes on their own, living their lives as a signal is shot into the sky. Each member gets a scene introducing us to them. Johnny Storm is fixing cars with his friends. When he's called upon, he burns a hole in the car and flies right on through. Sue has more class and is kinda enough to pay for a taxi even when she's invisible. Ben's trying to hide his rocky condition from everyone. When he's spotted, he stumbles upon and creates a lot of damage like a brute. We get a bit of an idea on who these people are, what they are doing on their free time, and how they act. When the group gathers, we enter a flashback that recalls Fantastic Four's origin. As they get their powers, they become afraid, they panic. Ben blames Reed for ruining their lives and tries to fight him over it. Reed promises to fix them. In the meantime, they have power, so I guess they might agree as well to use that power to help the people. And they become the Fantastic Four. There's a humanity to these characters. They're afraid, just like me. They get angry, just like me. Then they act stupid. Come on, that's literally just me. This relatability is why you care about what's about to happen in the rest of the comic book. Now let's look at Justice League issue 7 and how that begins. There's these two, Snapper and Midge, who are on a date at a carnival, but then they kind of get kidnapped and they call the Justice League for help. Justice League arrives to save the day. A major difference is immediately clear. I don't know any of these heroes. We don't see Bruce Wayne or Diana Prince live their lives. We don't know anything about Hal Jordan or Barry Allen. How do they talk? What do they do beyond being superheroes? Johnny does cars, Sue socializes. What do the Justice League members do? Their civilian identities might as well not exist. The heroes are their superhero identities, and they are only their superhero identities. In fact, we barely see them out of the costume. There's a glimpse of Barry Allen's head in an empty void. The narration box says he's a police scientist, and he pulls his costume out of a ring. That's all we get. Batman is already in costume, although I guess that tracks, so I can't complain too much, I guess. The narration boxes tell us these characters' jobs, but that feels more like fun facts, not storytelling. Fantastic Four gives the characters many pages and panels to flesh them out. Batman gets this little fifth of a screen. The closest Justice League comes to being relatable is Snapper and Midge. They were on a date, which is something people do. Snapper defends Midge from this dog thing. That's brave and selfless. That's it. Snapper didn't seem to have any flaws. The Thing gets angry at his friends. He has negative traits, and all of us have them. Snapper doesn't, which makes him kinda boring. Also, Johnny, he seems younger. You got a brute in the Thing, you got the logical smart guy in Reed, and a careless young guy in Johnny. They're all very different from each other. All the JL people act and talk like each other. It's not just a lack of conflict, it's a lack of opportunities for conflict. Justice League members are all different. You have a Greek god, a Martian, a dude, half farm boy, half god, a dude, and King of Atlantis. And yet I can't tell the difference between them. They all talk and act the same. Variety is part of what makes Fantastic Four so much more interesting. But that's just the beginning. What is more interesting is what the plots themselves reveal about these books. Let's look at Fantastic Four first. These mysterious monsters are appearing all around the world, wreaking havoc. Fantastic Four investigate what's going on. The investigation leads them getting kidnapped and brought to the underground kingdom of the Mole Man. Despite what you might think, Fantastic Four are not really superheroes in this story. They kinda are, but not fully. Fantastic Four use their powers for greater good, they have superpowers, they have superhero names, and they fight a supervillain. They walk around in astronaut suits, but they don't really have an actual uniforms yet, and a good chunk of the issue is them in civilian clothing. When they talk to each other, they refer to each other by their real names. Mr. Fantastic is Reed. The Thing is Ben. Johnny and Sue. The human is put first. It's a character drama. The characters come first. We get to know the four before the monsters show up. They explore the world like it's an adventure book. There is a focus on technology and science like in a sci-fi book. Fantastic Four is not just a superhero comic, it's sci-fi, mystery, and superhero all wrapped into one single epic. But wait, it gets better. The Thing hates being a rock monster, which, fair. He has to learn how to come to terms with being a rock. This is a long arc that'll extend far beyond just a single issue, but it's here. The villain, Mole Man, parallels the Fantastic Four, and even more specifically, The Thing. Both look different and want acceptance. Mole Man turned bitter and became evil. The Thing chooses to be better. Do not become a monster on the inside. There's meaning and even nuance to the story. Fantastic Four ends with Reed dueling with Mole Man one-on-one, and once he's defeated, all the monsters come out and chase the team out of the game as it all collapses around them. It's an epic way to end the story. So, let's see what the Justice League is doing. JL gathers to investigate a carnival. Both of these comics have the same plot point, and with some of the heroes getting kidnapped. It's a fine premise in a vacuum, but it works better in Fantastic Four because I'm given the reasons to care about them as people. Why does Batman want to save Green Lantern? Because that's what heroes do, so I guess. That's it. We don't get a feel for why these people are friends. Like, we don't get them bantering like friends would. They don't take jabs at each other. They are just superheroes because of course they are. It's what they are. It's far less interesting. To be fair, Fantastic Four are superheroes for no reason too, but there's more going on around that, so it's more interesting. Nowadays, I'd criticize Fantastic Four for their, we gotta use these powers for good, right? But this comic came out in 1961. Times were different. Fantastic Four was a big leap forward compared to Justice League, so we can really feel the difference, so it's much easier to ignore that. And I'll be honest, you don't really feel it. It sticks out a little bit, but you don't really feel it as an issue when reading the issue. Even the villains have 1,000 miles between them. Justice League has aliens who want to conquer the world. Why do the aliens want to conquer the world? No real reason. They just do because, I don't know, like that's what aliens do as well, I guess. As you can see, kind of motivations of all characters are very surface level. People just do what they're supposed to do. Heroes are heroes, villains are villains. That's it. Justice League throw these aliens back into their spaceship and that causes them to fall asleep for 100,000 years. Okay, how? I understand sleeping pods, but wouldn't you need to operate the machine somehow? How does Green Lantern know how to do that? Also, this looks like he created a ship with his ring. Did he do that? Isn't he supposed to concentrate to create constructs? Is he just sitting there concentrating for 100,000 years? How does this work? Am I stupid for not understanding this comic book design for 10-year-olds? Anyway, there is no arc for Justice League. They don't change or learn anything from this, unlike Fantastic Four, who learn to put their differences aside so they can work together towards a common goal. There is no conflict within Justice League. There's no meaning to any of this. It's pure plot and nothing more. Because of the lack of layers, there's nothing relatable about it. Not the heroes, not the plot, not the villains, nothing. Okay, all of this is from issues 1, but that doesn't tell the full story. One good issue gets you a good launch, but not enough for a series. So in order to get a fuller picture, I read the rest of Fantastic Four Year 1, and a bunch of more Justice League issues to get a fuller picture. Here is what I learned. Every Justice League story is 100% independent with very minor references to other stories. Relationships don't change. Their victories or defeats don't affect the next story. Each issue exists in a complete and utter vacuum by itself. One of the things I love about Fantastic Four is the continuity. Every issue is its own standalone story, but the relationships and arcs and some minor plot elements carry over between stories. For example, issue 2 ends with Johnny Storm leaving the F4. The next issue is about finding Johnny and bringing him back to the team, at least early on. Sue Storm will meet Namor and thirst over him in later issues. One issue is about securing funding for their living, so the consequence of that story is that other stories can happen. It feels like Fantastic Four are actually living their lives. There's a feeling of progress. I feel like I'm rewarded for reading multiple issues in a row. You're invested in the whole run, not just a single story. This doesn't happen in Justice League. Pretty much every Fantastic Four issue begins with the heroes hanging out and interacting with each other just as regular people. Often Reed will be studying their powers. He messed them up, he will fix them. This is his mission on his free time. Johnny will be hanging out and fixing cars, and they will be reading comic book magazines. They will be doing people things. Their personal lives are the best parts of these issues. Justice League people never act like humans. I don't think they have goals in their civilian lives. Like, based on Justice League, I have absolutely no idea who Diana Prince is. What does Oliver Queen do on his free time? Like, does Oliver Queen, not Green Arrow, but Oliver Queen, does he have any, like, goals? I don't know. Johnny does cars, picks up girls. Sue will dream about Namor. This girl is into Namor big time. She even has a picture of him hidden away. The girl has a thirst, and her story is about getting over King Speedo over here. Namor appears quite regularly and always feels fresh in these stories. The first time he has amnesia, so a good chunk of the issue is spending helping him get his memory back. You get to find out Atlantis lore. The second time, he and the Fantastic Four are in their building when it's shot up into space and they have to work together in order to survive. This book is absolutely bonkers if I haven't gotten that across yet. The third time, the King of Atlantis is a rich movie producer and he's trying to take the Fantastic Four down one by one by scheming quietly in the background. Every single issue does something new. Kirby explores the underground world of monsters with Mole Man. We get to see Dr. Doom's castle. Many of the climaxes are resolved through clever thinking. Reed thinks himself out of situations, or Sue will negotiate peace, or sometimes Johnny Storm will use brute force. It's always different. All Fantastic Four issues have a unique type of stories too. Dr. Doom will force the Fantastic Four to time travel back to Pirate Age to search for treasure. It's a pirate adventure, but then there will be a story about Fantastic Four on another planet trying to save its people from a natural catastrophe. There is no costume villains here, just a puzzle for Reed to solve. Puppet Master controls people through voodoo dolls, and there's an element of horror to this creepy weirdo. The wildest is in issue 10, where Jack Kirby and Stan Lee themselves appear as characters. They're trying to come up with a great villain on par with Dr. Doom, and then suddenly Dr. Doom just appears and holds them hostage. They call Fantastic Four for help, who are not just aware of the writers, but they're aware that Kirby and Lee write them. This sounds absolutely wild, and it is absolutely wild, but it's genuinely one of the best issues from these early Fantastic Four. So much variety. But then you look at the Justice League issues I read, and all of them feel much more formulaic. There's a villain with a gimmick. All 3 issues include Justice League members being kidnapped in some way. Like, oh my god, they use that trope a lot in every single issue I read. The villains are motivated by world domination or greed. Why are the villains power hungry or greedy? I don't know. The writers didn't get that far. There is an issue of Justice League that's closer to Fantastic Four though, and it's super interesting. Issue 9 came out a few months after Fantastic Four, and it does do a little bit of a different thing. It begins with Justice League celebrating the Justice League's birthday. They clean up the HQ and bake a cake and clean up and everything. It's really cute. Then they tell their origin story of Justice League, which then those flashbacks feel like the 2 previous stories. They get kidnapped again. You know, you'd think the collection of DC's greatest superheroes would do better than this, but what do I know? The story is framed as a flashback, so we return periodically to watch everyone eat cake and just talk to each other. It's adorable, and I wonder if that's slight Fantastic Four influence creeping in. There is no conflict in between the characters, just them hanging out in their costumes. But I am intrigued if it's getting better. So I decided to read even further issues to investigate. Yeah, no, Justice League gets kidnapped again. But issue 10 and 11 are a 2-parter, but there is no continuity and there is no conflict to be seen. I look here, I look there, no characterization to be seen anywhere. And I want to make it clear, I sound negative on Justice League, but I don't hate these issues. It's not a terrible book. In fact, they're super fun. These issues include some goofy stuff that people bring up as a fun fact in conversations sometimes. Some of this stuff is like an urban legend. It's like, oh, did you know Green Lantern is weak to the color yellow? And then we all have a laugh and like, such an absurd thought. I've seen it with my own eyes. Like here. Green Lantern captures the Flash, so Flash destroys Green Lantern's constructs by touching them with the yellow parts of his suit. It's absolutely wild to see. It's insane. In this scene, there is a safe in the ocean and Green Arrow wants it, don't ask, so he pulls out a reverse rocket arrow. He shoots it into the ocean, it reverses back and shoots the safe into the sky. Absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10. Here is an Aquaman riding a sea dragon. Another super interesting thing about the early Justice League is that this series is before Batgirl was a thing, so Batman is kind of the most useless member of the Justice League. He does absolutely nothing in these issues. He just stands there in the background. It's fascinating to see a Batman who is a less useful member than Green Arrow. Humble origins, I guess. I appreciate goofy comic book stuff. I don't want to sound like I dislike Justice League, but because I don't. It's just not on the same level as Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four innovates and takes comics to the next level. Fantastic Four just has far more variety, and the characters. Oh, I love the characters. I cannot put into words how much I adore Ben and Alicia's relationship. I love this woman. I love their interaction. Fantastic Four can be goofy, but it also delivers on emotions. The best embodiment of the difference between these books is the character of Snapper. Snapper is this kid who often instigates the Justice League adventures. He's the one who gets kidnapped by aliens, starting that story. He asks how Justice League was formed, getting that story going. Snapper is a young character. I guess the young reader base was supposed to see themselves in him. He's like Robin in that sense. He's like a 7th grader being allowed to hang out with the 9th graders, you know. Snapper hangs out, but when the action starts, he gets out the way. There are no interesting characteristics that really define Snapper. No flaws, no quirks. He's an ideal child, a role model. Just like Justice League, he is perfect. His opposite in Fantastic Four would be Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm is also a young guy. He acts before he thinks, he's arrogant, he's got an interest in cars and girls. He loves the adrenaline that danger gives him, and he takes time to impress girls where he can. Johnny is flawed as they come. He stands out because of those unique flaws. But when it's time for action, Johnny isn't left behind. He's right there alongside with the older heroes. He saves the day with them. Johnny and Snapper are perfect symbols for their respective books. Snapper is an honorary member of the Justice League. Johnny is a member of the Fantastic Four. Snapper gets out the way and is completely A-okay with that. Johnny stands next to his family as an equal hero, and he has very strong opinions on that. Okay, so Batman smells, Fantastic Four rules, and Justice League is goofy. What's the point here? Well, one, you should read Fantastic Four. It's like really good. But don't worry, there's a bigger picture to all of this. At the time, all of these points were company-wide differences between DC and Marvel. It's why Marvel took off so well. Marvel was more relatable. As Stan Lee put it, they always try to give their heroes feet of clay. This difference has gone over the years. Well, I'm talking about 60s comic books here. That was 60 years ago. DC eventually learned their lesson from these early Marvel comics and added more reality to their heroes, and in modern day, Marvel has even taken away reality from many of them. It's more of a book-by-book basis difference than necessarily company-wide, but I say you can still see the remnants of this divide. DC heroes weren't built to be relatable, so they end up being billionaires or 10-year-olds. Fantastic Four influenced DC. And the influence of Fantastic Four can be seen in all comic books. You might not have, of course, Batman as a fallible human without Kirby making it cool first. Spider-Man, Daredevil, they rely on their relatability that Fantastic Four gave us. Teams like X-Men rely on their family dynamic, which was pioneered by Fantastic Four. Avengers would not be the dysfunctional team they are in the comics or on film if it wasn't for Fantastic Four arguing with each other. All of Marvel was spawned off of Fantastic Four, so if you like something Marvel related like MCU or Spider-Man, this is the book you can thank for it. You like higher quality of writing? Kirby pushed the storytelling of comic books into something real. He added layers, he made these into something more than Pulp Fiction to be discarded after reading, which eventually leads to things like Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and whatnot. At least, I believe those things can credit their existence to Fantastic Four's existence. Quote-unquote real stories didn't simply exist before Kirby came out and poofed them into existence with Stan Lee. I think early Marvel's success can be credited in many ways to their subversiveness. Looking at Spider-Man, he was a kid doing the superhero thing alone. If what came before is Snapper and Robin, no wonder Spider-Man was a big deal. Johnny was Marvel's first teenager. When that character worked, it seems that Marvel decided to take the hot-headed, arrogant brat that is Johnny and make him a solo act. These two characters are very similar, so it does seem that Johnny inspired Peter Parker in many ways. When Spider-Man unmasks mysterious villains, Electro, Crime Master, and Big Man all ended up being complete nobodies. No best friend under these masks. Literally people you've never seen before. Tony Stark was a crooked billionaire instead of a good-hearted one like Oliver Queen or Bruce Wayne. Marvel was flipping tropes on their heads. This is the key reason for Marvel's success, I believe. They were innovators, doing the things you weren't allowed to. People are always attracted to the new thing, and for a while, Marvel was just that. But the biggest credit to early Marvel, and especially Fantastic Four, is their quality. I read these comic books for the first time 60 years after their release, and I'm loving them. To be able to stand the test of time for that long is an achievement. Fantastic Four is not just influential, it proves to be the best Silver Age has to offer. Pretty good from a dying company,